Take a break from your busy schedule and join Harold Sala for Guidelines, a 5-minute commentary on living.
One of the oldest questions that has ever been voiced is the question, why, God? Why do you allow suffering? You find that question voiced by a man whose name was Job, and you can read all about him in the book that bears his name. And who was Job? In her book, What the Bible is All About, Henrietta Mears wrote, Job may be one of the most ancient pieces of finished literature in existence. It is certainly one of the oldest, if not the oldest book in the Bible. And what is the issue that the author wrote about? One of the oldest questions that anyone ever voiced. Why is there suffering in the world? And why do godly people in particular suffer? Never shall I forget the encounter I had with an 80-year-old veteran who lay in the hospital in intense pain, and he looked up at me and asked, why do I lay here and suffer? Why doesn't God just take me home? I was in my mid-20s at the time, and I certainly didn't have a satisfying answer. Yet the book of Job comes closer to addressing this problem than any other biblical book. Now, well more than 60 years later, if you're expecting me to give you a trite answer in the next 3 minutes, don't hold your breath. Yet I have learned some of the lessons that Job learned, especially that we will never fully understand the reason why good people, moral, upright, generous, committed, and yes, even righteous, face pain and suffering, while blasphemous, immoral, foul-mouthed individuals often avoid the sick bed. C.S. Lewis, professor of medieval English at Cambridge, addressed the problem of suffering in his book, The Problem of Pain. One of my favorite authors, Phil Yancey, teamed up with Dr. Paul Brand, a dedicated surgeon, and wrote an outstanding book about pain and suffering. Dr. Brand actually believed that pain was actually a blessing from God. Job, the man who tried to make sense of pain and suffering, was blameless before God. He was upright, and the Hebrew word means straight. He feared God and shunned evil. Job's friends, of course, believed that they knew why Job was confronted with suffering. But this we know. Job found God in the midst of his suffering, and his heart cried out, why me? Take time to read the last chapter of the book that bears his name. In this, you will hear the heart cry of a broken man who says, I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. The book concludes saying, and Job died an old man and full of days. Far better than having an answer to the question, why me, or why us, is coming to understand that God has not chosen you as an object of affliction and persecution, but He will meet you in the very dark night of your pain and anguish and show you something of His grace and goodness, His unrelenting love. Many acknowledge the fact that there is a God and know something of His power and greatness, but it is in the valley that we hear the whisper of His voice saying, my child, remember my son knows exactly how you feel. He experienced the nails of the Roman centurion for your healing and redemption. Remember, He said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. My presence will abide with you until it's time to come home.
You've just heard Dr. Harold Sala with Guidelines, a 5-minute commentary on living. If you would like to listen to the program again, download a copy, subscribe to our e-commentary, or view other resources, visit guidelines.org. We would like to hear from you too. You can email us at info@guidelines.org. That's info@guidelines.org. Thanks for listening, and we invite you to join us again for the next edition of Guidelines.